Welcome to Israelites Doctrine for Dummies, where we break down the truth of the Bible so simple, even a child can understand it. Your charity helps generate the lessons needed to seal the chosen before the destruction.
Yeah, Ashar, but it's hard to transition. But when you understand that,
it's not hard if they give you a fat enough fucking bag of money. You know? It's not hard if they give you a $10 million check. It's not hard if they get your checking account and the next morning, that Monday morning, you got $10 million in your account. It ain't hard. It ain't hard. How hard? Not hard.
it's only the one West camps out of 8 billion people.
And there they go. This is the
A strong rebuke to Deacon Hakah. The danger of pushing the boundaries of non-Israelite Gentile salvation. Deacon Hakah, this is a necessary rebuke. You have taken a doctrine that should have been handled with fear, trembling, and covenant discipline, and you have pushed it into dangerous territory. You have introduced the idea that non-Israelite Gentiles can receive salvation, even if you call it lesser salvation, tributary salvation, or servant salvation. But changing the rank of the salvation does not fix the error. The issue is not whether non-Israelites are equal to Israel. The issue is whether they are included in Israel's covenant salvation at all. You said Gentiles do not receive equal salvation with Israelites, but nevertheless, they get salvation. That statement is dangerous because it opens a door the scriptures do not open. It takes what belongs to the children of Yahweh and begins to distribute it to outsiders under a different label. That is not precision. That is confusion. The Bible is not a universal salvation manual for all mankind. It is the covenant record of Yahweh's dealings with Israel. The promises were made to the fathers. The covenants were made with Israel. The new covenant is with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. The kingdom belongs to the house of Jacob. Redemption belongs to the people who were already Yahweh's possession. You cannot create a new class of saved non-Israelites and call it harmless because they remain beneath Israel. That is still Gentile inclusion. That is still moving the boundary. That is still doctrinal trespass. You are making the captives look away from their own deliverance. The lost tribes are in captivity. They need identity. They need repentance. They need the commandments. They need the gospel of the kingdom. They need to know that Christ came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. They do not need Gentile salvation classes. When the captives are still asleep, scattered, broken, miseducated, and stripped of their heritage, why would a teacher make non-Israelite salvation a major focus? That is not the mission of Christ. Christ said he was sent to the lost sheep. The disciples were commanded to go to the lost sheep. The gospel of the kingdom was proclaimed to Israel. The apostolic work was to gather the scattered children, not to build a doctrine for outsiders. When you make Gentile salvation a central discussion, you shift the burden away from Israel. You take the attention of the captives and make them wrestle over the fate of those who oppressed them, ruled over them, scattered them, and claimed their book. That is spiritually reckless. You are confusing the word Gentile. You are treating Gentile as if it automatically means non-Israelite. That is one of the roots of the error. In the New Testament, Greeks, Gentiles, strangers, uncircumcision, and aliens must be read through the history of Israel's dispersion. The northern kingdom was scattered. Israelites became Hellenized. Israelites lived among the nations. Israelites were cut off from the commonwealth. Israelites were called by names connected to the nations where they lived. So when Paul speaks to Greeks and Gentiles, the first question is not, how do non-Israelites get salvation? The first question is, which scattered Israelites are being gathered? You skipped over that foundation and treated non-Israelite inclusion as though it were the plain reading. But the plain reading must obey the covenants, the prophets, and the promises. A word study without covenant discipline becomes a doorway to deception. You are weaponizing Paul against the prophets. You leaned heavily on Paul, Acts, and 1 Timothy to build a case for non-Israelite salvation. Then, when challenged, the class itself admitted that the Old Testament should have been the starting point. That admission exposes the problem. You cannot begin with Paul and then force the prophets to catch up. Paul does not override Moses. Paul does not rewrite Isaiah. Paul does not expand Jeremiah 31 beyond the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Paul does not turn the promises made to the fathers into a salvation program for unrelated nations. The apostolic writings must be interpreted through the prophets, not against them. If your reading of Paul creates saved non-Israelites, then your reading of Paul is out of order. You are turning servitude into salvation. Another dangerous error is confusing national servitude with salvation. The prophets speak of nations serving Israel. They speak of tribute, subjection, labor, judgment, and dominion. But servitude under Israel is not the same thing as covenant salvation. A nation can serve Israel and still not be Israel. A stranger can be subject to Israel's law and still not inherit Israel's promises. A tributary can bow under the kingdom and still not be redeemed. You are taking prophetic subjection and calling it salvation. That is a category error. It blurs the line between being ruled by Israel and being redeemed with Israel. Those are not the same thing. You are creating a false middle ground. Your doctrine tries to stand between exclusive doctrine and universal Christianity. You say, they are not equal with us. They do not get what we get. They do not rule with us. They are under Israel. They only get lesser salvation. But this is still a compromise. A false middle ground is still false. You cannot place non-Israelites halfway into the promises and call that safe doctrine. You cannot let them stand at the edge of the inheritance and call that covenant order. You cannot hand them a crumb of salvation if the covenant never promised them the bread. This is how boundaries are destroyed, not always by denying Israel outright, but by slowly expanding who may benefit from Israel's covenant. That is why this doctrine is dangerous. You are teaching in a way that scatters the sheep. A teacher must gather. A teacher must strengthen. A teacher must make the path clear for the lost sheep. But this doctrine has scattered people. It has produced confusion. It has produced division. It has made Israelites question the boundaries of the covenant. It has caused people to wrestle with Gentile inclusion instead of Israelite restoration. That fruit matters. If a doctrine causes the captives to become unstable, suspicious, divided, and confused, the teacher must examine whether he is building or scattering. The lost tribes are not strengthened by hearing that non-Israelites may be saved too, just in a lower position. They are strengthened by hearing, "You are Israel. You are the children of the covenant. You are the seed of the fathers. You are the lost sheep being called. You are the people Christ came to redeem. You are the nation being gathered." That is the message. You are moving the boundary stones. The ancient boundary is Israel. The fathers are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The covenants are Israel's. The adoption is Israel's. The promises are Israel's. The kingdom is Israel's. The throne is David's. The new covenant is with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Christ saves his people from their sins. When you teach non-Israelite Gentile salvation, you move the boundary stone. Even if you move it only slightly, you still move it. Even if you say they are beneath Israel, you still make them participants in something that belongs to Israel. That is not safe. That is not disciplined. That is not set apart. Final rebuke. Deacon Hakah, you must repent of pushing the boundaries of non-Israelite Gentile salvation. You must stop calling confusion deeper revelation. You must stop treating Gentile inclusion as though it is harmless because it is unequal. You must stop making the captives debate the salvation of outsiders. You must stop reading Gentiles without the history of the scattered tribes. You must stop using Paul in a way that appears to expand the covenants beyond Israel. You must stop turning servitude into salvation. You must stop giving non-Israelites a place in Israel's redemption. The gospel is not a Gentile salvation campaign. The mission is the lost sheep. The focus is the captives. The doctrine is exclusive. The book is set apart. The covenant is Israel's. The children need bread, not confusion. If you continue pushing this doctrine, you are not gathering the sheep properly. You are scattering them with unstable teaching. You are giving the nations a doctrinal foothold in a book that was given to awaken Yahweh's children. This is not a small error. This is a breach in the wall, and every breach must be rebuked before more sheep are scattered. Before I begin naming the titles that describe this kind of teacher, I want to make the matter plain. We are not dealing with a simple disagreement or a small difference in wording. We are dealing with the danger of a teacher who takes a set-apart doctrine, given for the awakening of the lost sheep of Israel, and turns it into a platform for confusion, money, image, and Gentile inclusion. When a man uses the microphone, the camera, the podcast table, and the appearance of wisdom to push the boundaries of non-Israelite salvation, he is no longer simply teaching. He is moving the boundary stones. He is taking the minds of captives who need clarity and scattering them with unstable doctrine. A teacher like this must be named by his fruit, because the flock must be warned before more sheep are misled. A teacher who claims to guide the flock but scatters them with confusion. Hireling teacher. A man teaching for gain, comfort, image, or followers rather than guarding the sheep. Merchandiser of the word. Someone who turns doctrine into profit, branding, and personal elevation. Doctrine peddler. A teacher selling unstable teachings like a product. Covenant trespasser. One who pushes beyond the boundaries of Israel's covenant and opens what Yahweh did not open. Boundary remover. A teacher who moves the ancient lines between Israel and the nations. Confusion sower. One who plants chaos in the minds of the scattered tribes. Grifting preacher. A teacher using sacred doctrine for money, status, audience, and influence. Podcast prophet for profit. A modern rebuke title for someone using microphones, platforms, and branding to monetize the people. Wolf in teacher's clothing. A sharp variation of wolf in sheep's clothing, meaning someone appears as a teacher but harms the flock. Gentile inclusionist. One who brings non-Israelites into a salvation framework that belongs to Israel. Universalist in Israelite garments. A teacher dressed in Israelite language but carrying a universal salvation seed. Lesser salvation deceiver. One who says non-Israelites are not equal, yet still gives them a place in salvation. Covenant expander. One who stretches the covenants beyond the house of Israel and house of Judah. Stranger gate teacher. A teacher who uses stranger passages to open the gate to non-Israelite salvation. Pauline distorter. One who uses Paul against the prophets and the covenants. Kingdom confuser. One who confuses Israel's kingdom restoration with outsider inclusion. The hireling at the mic. The grifter in the bunker. The doctrine peddler who scattered the sheep. When teachers sell confusion. Gentile salvation. The breach in the wall. The false shepherd and the scattered flock. The man who moved the boundary stones. Merchandising the captives. The podcast prophet and the price of confusion. A wolf with a microphone. The danger of lesser salvation doctrine. When Israelite teachers become covenant trespassers, the gospel is not for sale. How grifters turn captivity into content. The Gentile inclusion trap. A hireling shepherd and covenant trespasser.